Hello and welcome to our first discussion video with Source Gaming. In these sort of discussions we're going to talk about either a upcoming title or maybe one of the articles we have on our site. Something that's not quite big enough to get into a podcast, but something to keep you, we think is a good topic to talk about. So, my name's Nantendo, I write the Dream articles and I'll be your host today. And joining me is founder of Source Gaming, PushDustIn, as well as one of our lead translators, MaskedMan. So the topic today is Hyrule Warriors Legends, and we're just going to talk about the news that's come out about it recently, and get our general impressions on the game, as well as the original. So, MaskedMan, do you want to start by giving us your impressions of the original Hyrule Warriors game?
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by the original. I think it came out in August 2014, if I remember correctly, at least in Japan. So I got it at release, and I didn't really know what to expect because I had played a few of the Dynasty Warriors games. I hadn't purchased them, but I had played with friends, and they were decently satisfying, if a bit repetitive. But I think what really made the experience was being able to go through, revisit these worlds that I was familiar with through the original Zelda games, and play as a variety of different characters. It wasn't limited now to Link, it was all these other characters, Zelda, for example, Impa, Darunia, characters that I had always appreciated but never been able to control myself. So, in that sense, as a Zelda fan, it was extremely satisfying. I got through the story mode, and I dabbled a little bit in the adventure mode, and then, I got sidetracked, as many a gamer does in situations like that. But, I was pleasantly surprised by the game.
Alright. And Push, do you want to give your thoughts on it? I know you did a review about it on Source Gaming, which I'll link the article down below, but we'll go in order of the amount of time put into the game, because I'm pretty sure mine tops everyone else's.
So yes, I played Hyrule Warriors for about, I think, 120, 150 hours, which really isn't a lot of time for the game, because there's just so much content.
This is coming from someone who's played maybe a fraction of that, so kudos.
Oh, really? One thing I liked is that after the base game, they did keep on updating it. They released a couple of free patches, and they also introduced paid content, which introduced new mission varieties and stuff like that. My main issue with the main game was that it didn't feel like it had enough variety, but the DLC definitely supplemented that, definitely addressed that issue.
Yeah, well, I loved all of Hyrule Warriors. I thought the DLC was great. I liked the base game as well. I was worried about it getting repetitive because I'd never played a proper Warriors game. I played some knockoffs that I had on the PS3, but I hadn't played any proper ones. And my friend of mine always goes on about them being really repetitive, and once you've played one, you won't want to play anymore. But playing it, I've put about 300 something hours into this game. I've got everything in the base, like the vanilla game. I haven't done all of adventure mode yet. I've done every mission, but I haven't got A rank on all the missions for Master Quest. I'm on the very last mission of Termina, and I still have a couple of the Twilight Princess missions left. All of my characters are at least level 100, so
Oh my god.
I put a lot of time into this, which is why Hyrule Warriors Legends I'm really cautious about, because as I've now found out, you can't transfer your save data from the Wii U version to the 3DS version, which means I am not putting that much time into the 3DS version again.
Oh.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. With Smash for Wii U and Smash 3DS, one of my major issues with the game was going through the single player, the classic mode, and the All-Stars all again. And
Classic mode on the Wii U version was terrible.
It does feel like a huge rehash. Lots of tedium.
So, well, I mean that's what I think of the 3DS version of Hyrule Warriors Legends. I like some of the stuff they put on it, but I'm a little worried about what it is, but like having to do everything again. But what about MaskedMan? I know you haven't played much of the DLC, so there's a lot more new content here for you than there would be for me and Push.
Yeah, I've played even less than not very much. I've played absolutely zero of the DLC. So in that sense, I think Hyrule Warriors Legends probably appeals most to me in that it gives me access to all the content that I missed out on, partially by choice. But at the same time, yeah, it's exciting for me to see. I guess we'll talk a little bit more about the content itself later, but I think it's very much up my alley, if you will.
Right. And Push, what do you think about the 3DS version then of the game?
Oh, I'm actually very impressed that they're releasing a lot of the content for free, and a thought that occurred to me right now is I wonder if they're gonna continue to push more updates for both the Wii U and the 3DS after its release.
That was something I thought of, and I've got a note of it down here. Like, I know somewhere they said that they haven't thought about future DLC, but it's certainly on the table. But the game is, as of September, like as of TGS, I think this interview was, the game is 60% done. So once it gets to around January time, they're going to start thinking whether or not they do more DLC for the game or not.
Sure.
Because originally I thought it would all be over and they were saving up for Hyrule Warriors 2, maybe like an NX launch title. But now that this has come out in between, I'm starting to think that maybe not the case.
Yeah, it's potentially a small window then, since we don't know a lot about the NX release. But
one thing that I'm concerned about is just the lack of power on the 3DS. Like, if it was a new 3DS exclusive, then I think I would be a lot more excited for it.
I'm surprised it's not a new 3DS exclusive, honestly, because, it's a game that requires having a lot of enemies on screen, and very obviously there isn't that many enemies in comparison to the Wii U version on this 3DS version. Which I know, as people have pointed out, and I don't know if they're going to change the amount of enemies you need to kill, like some of the missions in adventure mode, because some of them require, like, killing 1,000 enemies in 10 minutes. But if the enemies don't spawn in time on the 3DS version, those missions are going to become far more difficult.
Right, unless they extend the amount of time.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see if there are going to be any changes like that to the adventure mode.
But I also can't see them extending the time for a portable game.
Yeah,
true.
That's also true.
Kind of contradictory to the idea that portable games are supposed to be things you can pick up, put down as you please, right?
Yeah, play on the train ride.
Yeah, especially for us.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of changes and stuff, we'll talk about what's new to the game.
Awesome.
So, as of now, they have announced 4 new playable characters, 2 bosses, 1 map, 2 new items, and an epilogue for the story mode. We'll start with the thing that everyone's more excited about: the characters.
Yes.
So we have 3 characters down: Tetra, Toon Link, the King of Hyrule, whose name I'm not going to pronounce because it's like King
Daphnis, I think, right?
Something. Yeah, it's got a really long second name. And then there's also Skull Kid, which I know was a really big fan favourite for the Wii U version, and a lot of people were really upset that he didn't make it into that.
Understandable. I was one of them.
Me too.
So what do you guys think about... I'll start with Push this time. What do you guys think about the new characters that have been added to this 3DS Hyrule Warriors Legends?
The first 3 are definitely... All of them are from Wind Waker, and most of the content for the 3DS version seems to be just focused on Wind Waker, which kind of makes sense because out of the 3D Zeldas, Wind Waker is probably the biggest fan favorite that wasn't addressed in the base game.
Out of the 3D Zeldas, Wind Waker was the only one not addressed in the base game.
That's true.
Not included in Majora's Mask DLC.
So it makes sense that they would make a big push for that. I was a little surprised to see Skull Kid. I thought they were almost finished with Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see Skull Kid.
Twilight Princess.
Because he's already part of Young Link's moveset, I just assumed that they weren't going to make any major changes. It makes me wonder if they've just removed him from that and it's just going to be Fierce Deity Link cutting the moon in half without him.
I don't think so. I think they'll keep the moveset the same.
I mean, it's just an animation thing, so it's not actually changing the move. It's just I just wonder if it's just an update they're going to make, because the characters so far for me, I think I was only managed to guess one of them right, and that was Tetra.
Oh, wow.
Like, because I had a big thing, because I knew Wind Waker would be a big focus if they ever made a sequel, because it was the only one missing.
Sure.
And I didn't know whether they'd redesign the characters to look more like the others, or whether they'd keep the toon design, and because I wasn't sure how they were going to do it. But my two ideas for Wind Waker characters was Tetra and Medley.
Oh,
from
good choice.
The Sage, because Medley could have used the what's it called, the grappling hook. Seeing as she starts off with that in the game, and it's what the Rito are meant to use. It's kind of like Darunia using the Megaton hammer, because it's the Goron's sacred weapon.
Yeah, it's certainly.
So I thought those two were a shoo-in. I didn't expect another Link, and I didn't expect the King of Red Lions, King of Hyrule, because I didn't know how they were going to make him a playable character as a boat.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed with his boat attacks.
Yeah.
They look really fun.
The ingenuity is astounding.
Really cool. Like. So, what do you think of the new characters then, Maskman?
Well, it's a fun coincidence because my two favorite Zelda titles are, in fact, Majora's Mask and Wind Waker. And then the characters that I love from those games are Skull Kid and Tetra, respectively. So it truly is designed with me in mind, I feel. I don't know who's been stalking my Google searches or what have you, my Miiverse account, but yeah, somebody out there knows what I like, and they've implemented it in Hyrule Warriors Legends, so thank you, whoever you are.
So you talked briefly about King of Hyrule's moveset and how they've incorporated boat designs. Tetra is like a typical pirate fare. She has a gun, which is very unusual for the Zelda series.
Yeah.
And also it seems to use bombs and a cutlass, I believe. But I'm more curious about Skull Kids and Toon Links. As of now, we don't actually have the scans for Skull Kid yet.
Unfortunately.
The Famitsu scans haven't been released. They probably will be by the time this recording goes out to the public, so we'll actually get to see how Skull Kid might play. According to the description, he uses an ocarina as his weapons and will have the two fairies by his side. So that's going to be really curious. I don't understand quite how the ocarina is going to work as a moveset. Although the harp, Sheik's harp, I would have also not been able to understand, but they managed to make that work.
Yeah, I wondered if... Have you played Kid Icarus Uprising?
Yes.
Yeah, I wondered if the two fairies might function kind of like the Orbitars do. They would sort of hover at Skull Kid's side, and he could use the ocarina to sort of summon them and have them attack in tandem.
What? Think they're going to shoot people, like the Orbiters?
I don't know if they go that far, but I feel like he might be able to control them as a puppeteer, kind of like the Rosaluna equivalent in Hyrule Warriors Legends.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's probably likely. I think they'll run ahead and do like damaging attacks, while Skull Kid either does some weird dance or runs over slower and with bigger, heavier attacks.
Yeah, or just sits there laughing, perhaps.
Yeah. I always imagine him playing the ocarina and then laughing.
I could see
on top
that.
of the clock. Yeah, exactly.
I actually could see that being his introduction, like how he's introduced in Majora's Mask when he does the laugh.
Yeah.
I could see that being his intro to a stage.
Oh, that would be so... Wow. I'm looking forward to it already.
So Toon Link's an interesting one because apart from having another Link in the game, he uses the same item essentially as regular Link, the sword and shield. Because young Link has the Fierce Deity Mask and a really big sword with no shield, which makes it slightly different. But Toon Link is, from what I've seen, just has the same moves, not maybe moveset, but the same weapon that regular Link has, but with wind effects added in because it's the Wind Waker.
Right.
And what this looks like to me is that certain other characters that people have originally thought couldn't get in because their moveset had been taken by someone else. So, for example, Nabooru, a lot of people thought she'd use the Naginata. Am I pronouncing that right?
Naginata?
Yeah,
Yeah.
They thought that Nabooru would use one of them because the Gerudus do, but then Impa got it, so a lot of people thought Nabooru wouldn't make it in. And the same for Lana's Deku Stick would have been the perfect weapon for Saria to have.
Yeah, my girl Saria.
Yeah, but because Toon Link essentially has the same weapons as regular Link, do we think that Saria and Nabooru could come back with the same weapons as another character, but just slightly different movesets the way they behave?
I mean, I love Saria, so I wouldn't complain at all.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I really enjoyed Sari. I really wanted her in. In Hyrule Warriors 1. Although I'm fine with Darunia and Ruto are the more likely choices probably, and Nabooru is probably a more likely choice as well. But you know, it's been fun
to offer some variety, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's. I mean, we see similar arguments made regarding Smash Brothers, right? And character inclusions. This character would overlap with pre-existing character X, so it's impossible. But I don't think there's anything to say that's a given or anything set in stone. So, yeah, if we have Toon Link using the same moveset as a pre-existing character, I don't see why they can't do it again.
Yeah. See, I haven't played many Hyrule Warriors, so I don't know what other characters have. Like, I don't know how many clone characters there are in regular Warriors games.
Ah, that's a good question.
I just know that their roster is so large that surely there must be some.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there's probably some overlap.
Yeah.
I haven't played it, Dynasty Warriors.
Okay.
Hyrule Warriors was my first.
Well, moving on from the characters, I guess we can cover the next thing to cover is the bosses, because we have at least 2 confirmed bosses, and we also have 2 confirmed items. And seeing as they usually go in tandem, we'll talk about them together. So the first boss is the Helmarok King.
Yes.
We're from Wind Waker.
That son of a gun.
And obviously going to appear on the Winwaker map primarily. So actually, I'll throw stages in here as well. There's a Winwaker map.
Yes.
And which looks to me like a combination of, from what I've seen in like analysis videos that other people have done, it looks like the Wind Waker map is Windfall Island, Dragon Roost, and Forsaken Fortress all as one big map, rather than having them be 3 distinct maps like what it initially looked like. The Helmarok King looks to be the boss of that. So, compared to other bosses, I guess the hammer is the item you use to beat him, just like in the original Wind Waker, and that's why the hammer item is in.
That makes sense, certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Well, it's another flying boss. And
True. We already have had
what's his name?
Number of those.
Yeah. What's his name in the one that's already in the Twilight Princess boss?
Oh,
Argorok. Right?
The dragon.
Yeah. Is it Argorok?
Is it Argorok? Yeah, I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
He's just a pain.
Yeah, he's a huge pain.
You have to take him out to actually do any sort of damage to him, making the boss fight so much longer. So I can only imagine the Helmarok King being essentially the same. It's going to be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, I have a feeling they'll probably try and keep it close to the original game so as to appease fans, hoping for that rush of nostalgia.
Yep, that's true. Do you guys think the hammer will do anything else apart from the damage to Helmarok King? So obviously, like the bombs blow up boulders, and the hook shot allows you to get up to places. I don't know. The bows allow you to kill Deku Barbars, so they all have a secondary purpose that isn't the boss. So do you think the hammers are going to have that as well?
Definitely.
Oh yeah.
I wonder if they'll pull from a Link Between Worlds. A Link Between Worlds.
With the little spring faces.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not use the actual design, but
well,
use the same
they
function.
could do, because the hammer, from what I've seen, looks to be the one used in A Link Between Worlds. It's not the Skull Hammer from Wind Waker. So
okay.
It's the big brown orangey hammer that they use in that game. So they may do that. I was thinking more it would just be hitting switches to open doors or something.
Just like in the 3D Zeldas, typically.
Yeah.
If they're using the Link Between Worlds hammer, then yeah, I think there's a very good chance they'll use the spring platforms or whatever the official title is.
Yeah. It's interesting that if that is the case, they're bringing in A Link to the Past, A Link Between Worlds content, which I'll bring that up a bit later. But the other item is the Soaring Ocarina from Majora's Mask.
Yes.
Which is pretty interesting. It allows you to warp around the stage, but only if you activate certain owl statues. So I guess they're adding owl statues to stages now.
Yeah, I wonder if that will be... Did they say where the owl statues will be located, or is it exclusively for a certain map, perhaps a Termina map?
Or like a mode.
Yeah. Well, we've seen them. I don't think they've said anything like that. We've seen a picture of the Winwaker map with the owl statues on it, and you can see on the touchscreen the owl heads.
Oh, okay.
And there was at least 2. I think they had 2, maybe 3 on the touchscreen, but they didn't specify whether those were ones that had already been activated, because you have to hit them with your sword to activate them, like in Majora's Mask. So they hadn't specified whether they've been activated ones that appear on the map, or if they just appear on there anyway.
Okay. Yeah, that's hard to say.
One thing that does impress me about the 3DS version is the ability to switch characters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that was something I was thinking. Doesn't that make the soaring function slightly redundant if you can just swap between characters on the fly?
True.
Yeah. Well, I guess switching the characters changes up the playstyle.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and I suppose there's the
So it doesn't get
possibility
so
for multi-character puzzles, a la Wind Waker, for example. You have to manipulate one character. You're able to control them. I forget the name of the music you play, but there's one where you kind of brainwash them and move them around the map, correct? Yeah, so I wonder if...
And it's also in Spirit Tracks.
Yeah.
With Phantom Zelda.
Oh, yeah. So, it's definitely a cool mechanic, I like that, but there's so many questions it brings up that they haven't actually addressed. I don't think they've really addressed that factor of the game outside of, like, maybe one interview back at E3 or whatever. Like, it's just swapping through, but do you decide which characters you bring in with you, or do you just stuck with whichever ones the story gives you as part of the mission?
Ah, that's a good question.
And does everyone share experience then, or do you only get experience for which one you've jumped to? Because sharing experience might be one way to make the game easier and slightly more streamlined for the handheld.
Yeah, which would also be appreciated probably by the people who have sunk in, 150, 300 hours into the Wii U version, right?
Yes.
So there are so many questions about this, but they just haven't really addressed it. Maybe if we get another Direct and they talk about Hyrule Warriors Legends, because I'm sure if we do get one, that we'll get a new trailer, probably showing off Skull Kid. To be honest, that all the new content that we haven't seen footage of.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
I just wonder if they'll talk about it a bit at that point.
I feel like from a marketing standpoint, they'll have to, just to make sure people know that it's still coming, that there's all this new content that makes it worth purchasing, even if you already have the Wii U version,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, well,
And most of the Hyrule Warriors news has been, like, translated out of Japan. It hasn't been officially released in English, as far as I understand.
Yeah, well, a lot of our new stuff, like the Toon Link and the Soaring Ocarina, came from TGS.
Yep.
So
the American or the Western media presence is pretty limited so far.
That's true. Well, at least Japan has a kind of release date for it, so I can understand a bit more why. I think the same thing kind of happened with Hyrule Warriors 1, I'm pretty sure. Most of our information came from Famitsu scans.
Yeah.
And it was only directs that we'd see, the occasional video direct, that we saw something new. But there wasn't that much time between... I swear there wasn't that much time between E3 when we first got Midna and Zelda and Impa shown off to the Japanese launch.
Yeah, it would have been about 2.5 months, I suppose.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure there wasn't a direct in that time period. So, except for there was a Hyrule Warriors direct when the game came out in Japan.
Right.
Which I think had an English version. So it's kind of like we got all the information just as before the game came out for you two.
Yeah.
Yeah, all at once.
Kind of like how they did that, the 50 Facts extravaganza or whatever that was for Smash Wii U, right?
Yeah.
Just on the eve of its release.
Well, moving on, there's one last boss, which is Phantom Gannon, which we haven't seen in the scan, although I think it's safe to assume it's probably the Wind Waker one more so than the Ocarina of Time one. So it's because the Wind Waker one also looks more unique and everything else is Wind Waker themed. Although I have some questions about this one. The first being, obviously, how you'd fight it. Most bosses come with a item that you need, but Phantom Gannon actually you beat by usually just reflecting his blast back. So do we think they've introduced the tennis mechanic into this game?
Well, it's certainly a good opportunity.
It's definitely a possibility.
I mean, it is a staple of the Zelda series, so having it in there seems like the smart decision.
But I just wonder if they're still using the item.
See, that's what I was thinking. I was trying to think of items that could reflect stuff, and the mirror shield was the only one I could think of.
Yeah, I think canonically speaking, aside from the Master Sword, when you do reflect the orbs in-game, yeah, that's the only item that comes to mind in your shield.
Because when it comes to reflection, you have to think about the items that people, the regular weapons that people use, and it's fine for a sword and stuff, but I don't think every character has something that so easily just attacks in front.
Right.
I mean, I might be wrong, but I think for some characters it may be more complicated than to fight Phantom Gannon. The other question I had about him was that, is he actually a boss, or is he just an enemy general? Because Phantom Gannon could easily be playable, and I'm pretty sure when they showed off Girahim and Zant originally, they said they were bosses. Because I know that the two of them got added in as playable characters really last minute.
Oh, interesting.
So, it's really curious for me, because I'm just like, is he actually, I need to see a scan, is he like actually a big boss, or is he treated as an enemy general? Because then he could become playable.
Yes.
Well, in the original game, he appears first as a boss, and then later appears kind of as a sub-boss, correct? He's demoted.
He appears like twice in the final, in Ganon's Tower in Winwaker.
Right. So.
And then is the mini boss of the Forsaken Fortress.
Right. In that sense, right. I see him more as an enemy general, or he's more likely to be cast in that role than, say, Helmrock King.
Yeah. Which would make him weird. I mean, they could be like Volga and Wizro. They were added as playable, and Seer. They were enemy generals added as playable in an update later on.
That's also true.
I felt like they were like, they just weren't finished for the game.
Yeah, I think so as well. But
like, I think I even mentioned that in my review, like, because I wrote that review like right after the game came out.
Yeah. I think the fact that Phantom Gannon isn't listed as playable in this scan apparently makes me think that at the moment he's not planned for it, but potentially one day he will be, which could hint to more content coming.
Yeah, I mean, if it's lucrative for them, then
yeah. It's really hard. We've got to see a scan or a video or something and see how he's portrayed in that.
Yeah.
To really understand it.
Famitsu, come to us. Where are you?
Well, I think the last thing to talk about then, or actually, I'll go back to stage quickly. So the Winwaker map looks like 3 combined maps. So do you think that's the case? Or do you think it's actually 3 separate maps? Because Winwaker having 3 maps when all the others have 2 doesn't seem to make sense. But then again, having 3 different areas from Wind Waker all forced onto one map also doesn't seem to make much sense to me.
Well, I can see it. I can see them being mashed together, and the map itself being the Great Sea, where you have to. I assume you wouldn't actually be sailing. It would be turned into maybe shallow water. But I could see a miniature version of the Great Sea as a pretty solid representation of the world of the Wind Waker.
Guys, the Famitsu scans are in.
Oh, they are.
Look at this.
Awesome.
Hold on. Let me
our
just.
savior.
Nice. So hey guys, this discussion went on much longer than we initially planned it to. That was mainly because of the introduction of the scans halfway through, as you just heard. So I decided to split this into 2 parts. The second part will be us translating the scans and revealing its contents, while also discussing which characters we'd like to see in the new Hyrule Warriors Legends, as well as a bit on the new story mode that there's the epilogue that's going to be added. So I'm sure that'll come out very shortly, and I hope you look forward to it. Okay, thanks guys. Bye.